Hale.
What?
It's
What?
Mojo Monday, sir.
Ha ha ha! It
Come
is.
on.
You wore your white shirt. I like it,
I
man.
did, I
It's
did,
White
I
Shirt
did.
Monday.
White takes out the decision-making process. You just stick it on, right?
It
That and
is the
black.
universal fit all.
There you go. Man, this is an exciting conversation today. We're going to talk about networking and connecting.
Yeah.
And obviously we're in the sales profession, our industry is about sales, but this is kind of a life concept, is it not?
On many levels. I mean,
Yeah.
if we're the average of the 3 to 5 people we spend the most time with, that's a starting place to consider your inner circle. But what are the concentric circles that
Yeah.
add value and spice to life that make life better? And I can tell you, the quality of my life is directly correlated to the quality of the people and circumstances in my life.
This starts early in life too. Like if you raised kids, like the quality of your kids' friends has a huge impact on the quality of your child, right? And then as we grow up into the professional world, um, the quality of the people that are in our ear or in our head or in our hearts
Yeah.
has everything to do with the quality of our lives.
Well, I don't think anyone would argue, Brett. If you looked over your shoulder at past decisions, you've probably rarely made a really bad decision without a co-conspirator or
Yeah.
someone who cheerleaded you into it or gave you false confidence if it turned out to not be a home run or a winner. And then conversely, I've never really been presented with an opportunity or made a really good decision that didn't include somebody of high caliber, high capacity, a true leader and visionary to some degree.
Wise counsel, right? So I think the easiest framework for today's conversation, just talking about the why, the what, and the how, right? So why is networking and connecting so important? We kind of touched on it, but give me your perspective of why.
Well, if you're a layman and you're not in sales, then you might argue that it's less important. I mean, if your life lives inside of a cubicle, but at the end of the day, what I do know is that if you need a resource or need help or need support in an area of life that's not specific to your job or role, that probably lives in somebody else's head and heart that's not
Yeah.
sitting next to you in your cubicle. So I think having a powerful network is not only a resource that's virtually invaluable, especially when they're trusted and they're best in class, but it's also comforting and it also gives you the capacity. That whole law of reciprocity and contribution comes to mind, and that you can't give away what you don't have. And friends with powerful networks are invaluable. So if you just want to be a better friend, and then the parlayed reality in sales is referrals are probably 80% of most people's businesses. And there's a direct correlative in the Millionaire Real Estate Agent book to how many people you communicate and connect with in meaningful ways and the number of leads you get.
100%. I mean, I'm just sitting there thinking, going, nobody really lives their life without making decisions along the way. So it's not only sales, like
No.
no matter what, you make decisions. Even if you know nobody, you still make a decision where you live, what car you buy, where you invest your money. So networking is obviously so important in a sales world or a business world, but in a life world, there's power in networking and relationships to help improve the quality of your life or your business.
1,000%. In
Yeah.
fact, there's a saying that floats around that says your network is equal to your net worth.
Yeah.
And that, kind of part lends itself to who you hang with is who you become. But I would argue that it's also the idea, ideation or the opportunities to find, to level up, whether it's investment counselors, your dentist, your name an area of life that someone's probably having a slightly better experience because they were given a referral or testimonial or they fell into it. And the aggregate of all of our friends, man, there's incredible wisdom when everybody lends their best idea.
Absolutely. So what? Let's move to what? What is networking? It's probably an overused term, but not really, maybe.
Yeah, I mean, Susan Scott in Fierce Conversations talks about that the conversation is the relationship. And so I would say networking is really, from a rudimentary perspective, just a conversation
Yeah.
that's consistent and regular to some degree. And ultimately that leads to relationship, which is where trust lives and where, people are authentic, transparent, and they're also contributory and want to help you. So coming from
Yeah.
contribution is part of it. And the other is connecting with people at a high level and having meaningful conversations, which gets easier when your network is talented and high minded.
Yeah. And I mean, I'm just sitting there thinking like asking great questions enriches networks too, right? Like,
Yeah.
so if I have a mentor like you, Mr. Hale, it's one thing to have a relationship with you, but if I have a great question, I can impart your knowledge back my direction, right?
Yeah, once you've earned the right and once you've invested and shown value as a friend and as an advocate, then you earn the right to ask the question. And another thing that was taught to me years ago that the differential between average and superstar often lives in a leader or that person's ability to ask for help. And I'm not here to tell you why you don't ask for help more often. Maybe it's ego, maybe it's uncertainty or insecurity. Maybe you don't want to be a burden on others. But my lesson is that really talented, caring, giving people want to be asked for help if that person is an advocate and also will do something with it. And so
Absolutely.
there's a kind of there's multifaceted elements to building a strong relationship that later empowers you to be less resistant to asking for help.
Yeah.
And it's almost like I had a coach recently also tell me that I play the humility card often, Brett, where I'm kind of like somebody goes, "Oh, you're great at fill in the blank," and I'll go, "Yeah, I'm all right, whatever, relative to the worst,
Yeah.
man." I make up some silly thing just to, and I guess it's a habit. And she kind of corrected me and said, the words you choose and how you connect with people, when someone gives you the gift of a really thoughtful compliment, when you minimize it and you berate yourself, you're actually minimizing and berating them indirectly. And you've taken a gift and you've thrown it to the floor. And I'm like, ooh, that's heavy.
Pull that
But at
one
the end
out.
of the day, I get it, man. So my better answer now is, man, that's so thoughtful. I accept that. And I'm really grateful for the kindness and the thoughtfulness of you sharing that.
Yeah. Thank you.
But it goes back to
Right.
asking, and now you've built even more rapport and, or goodwill. It all adds up and stacks up when you
100%.
suit up and show up since with sincerity.
So networking. It's the ability to build relationships and maintain relationships over time for mutual benefit. It doesn't work if it's one-sided benefit. There's got to be mutual benefit in there. That's what makes relationships thrive. But ultimately, if we're trying to connect with people and network with people, whether it's on the personal side of your life or the professional side of your life, there has to be mutual benefit, but you got to learn how to build relationships and you got to learn how to maintain relationships. We all had friends and stuff in high school and growing up, but how many of those are you still in relationship with? Probably not most of them, but
No.
in your adult life, if it's important to you to have a thriving network, you do have to ask yourself the tough question of what am I going to do purposefully to maintain these relationships? And it could be, there's so many strategies, and we can go into how to network, but I want to stay on what for just a second because um, I believe it's such a powerful thing for people when they finally get it, how powerful having a network and connecting with people is. It could change their life, right?
Yeah. And these are slippery times, man. I mean, there are a lot of people struggling, and there are people that aren't certain, or maybe whether it's affordability, whether it's lifestyle, whether it's, uncertainty in their industry. They really need, there's a saying by Zig that how do you know when someone needs encouragement? And the answer is they're breathing.
Yeah.
And the law of reciprocity, man, is real and simply showing up. So I think sometimes we fail to show up because we may not believe we have something to offer. And what you have to offer could be as simple as a kind ear and a thoughtful moment and just being present. It's not always fix solving and curing, some
Right.
crisis. But by not reaching out, you don't create the conversation, you don't ask compelling questions, you don't reveal opportunity, and opportunity is where the gift lives. And so that's
100%.
for whatever reason, I was the other day, someone's like, how do I get more referrals? And give more referrals. It's not rocket science. I was in a
Yeah.
networking group for 20 years. And, you know, and my role was realtor, and I was there to hopefully win business. But there was a direct correlation with the number of people in our networking group that I added value, gave a good referral that mattered, handed it off warm, and then nurtured and followed up with how they handled a referral back to me. It wasn't if, it was when. And
Yeah.
so you tip the scales of reciprocity when you come from contribution first. But remember, it's not always a referral, and it's not always, a physical gift. It can be like, if you understood their love language, what gets them excited. It could be a thoughtful text. It could be a call. It could be,
Yeah.
availability to support them.
I'm just sitting there thinking like we all go to that training class, right? Where the instructor says, pull out your phone and send 5 gratitude texts.
Yeah.
And I always do the exercise, and it's always a very rich exercise, assuming for the people on the other end of the text, but it's rich for me too, for being able to send the text, but I always receive a very warm response. Yet if I'm honest, I do it in those moments of those classes, but do I do it purposefully throughout the day or purposely throughout my week? I could be better. I don't do zero, but I could be better. And I think that's a little bit of what we're talking about here is how do we be purposeful about being a great networker, purposeful about connecting with people. So maybe as you're listening to this right now, you should pick up your phone and send 5 gratitude texts to just people in your network and that you have a relationship with, and receive their energy back, and then ask yourself, how do I be more purposeful about doing this more often in my life?
I think there are two ways to do it, and that's super smart. And it's not because if your intention is strictly to get something, that level of insincerity will shine and show through, and it won't be as effective. It has to be sincere. If you and I have never communicated, and I send you some glowing "you're awesome" text, you'd be like, "Who is this person?"
Yeah.
So you've got to start somewhere with a relational backdrop, if you will. So I actually teaching a class this week, there were people who acknowledged they hadn't communicated with their inner circle in 6 months or a year. And so my advice is start with the people that know you best, that you could call up and go, I was thinking about you today, no specific reason, just wanted to touch base. I feel guilty for having not reached out in a while. Just thought of you. What's going
Yeah.
on? How you feeling? Is there a challenge I can help you with? You can be as premeditated as you want coming from contribution,
Yeah.
but it's got to flow organically. The second half of that, though, Brett, might be to look at your database, and if you really want to get granular, figure out what sector they are in business, or what are there holes in the plan. Like, you don't have a specific person that you might refer for, again, I said it earlier, like financial planning, or someone who does landscaping, or someone who does renovations or repairs. There's a million people. What's your referral database look like for people that you refer out when someone's in need of a contractor or a professional? And so if there's a hole there, now you've got a really cool reason to call your top 10% who are super networked and probably more influential than the rest,
There you
80/20
go.
rule on steroids, and go, hey, I'm looking to fill a void so that I can serve people at a higher level. Who do you know that I should know that does this?
Dude, I'm happy to help.
So that's, and who
Right?
wouldn't? I'd get you, call me
Yeah.
for somebody. I'll help you out. I mean, who wouldn't? And you made a connection, you've connected. And then now what can I do to return the favor would be a great way to close out that conversation.
And I gave you an opportunity to feel good about yourself
Yeah.
because you were able to help me. And there's secret in that. But big picture here, Rick, I think you got to decide if you want to be purposeful about being a networker. You want to be purposeful about connecting relationally with people, right? And it's not hard. It's not a complicated conversation. It's just a matter of a decision that if you want to have mutually beneficial relationships with people, it doesn't happen by accident. And
No.
you do have to reach out. You do have to send those gratitude texts. You do have to call people from time to time. You do have to meet them for coffee or watch them on social media and find an opportunity to reach out. All those things are important.
Well, stage perfect days. If you know in your heart and mind there's a correlation between the number of people in your database and the quality conversations you're having and the actual net income that you're going to earn, it's foolish not to take a proactive approach to enhancing the odds you win. The
Yeah.
only way I know to do it is to have some level of accountability to calling a certain number of people every single day
There you
and
go.
then documenting the amount of times you connect and the outcome. And so if you do that, it's only a matter of time before you double or triple your odds. And when you do that, the chances are really good you win big. And so my best advice is don't leave it to the morning that you come into the office or wherever you go do your work to then just all of a sudden miraculously clear space, go find the people you want to call, pull up all their numbers, and then go really have a meaningful day connecting with 20, 30, or 40 people. My best advice is make it the standard that every day before you go home, you generate the list of the people you're going to connect with the following day. And then go ahead and script out what the key question you're going to ask or the information you're bringing that has value, that gives you, credibility as the economist of choice and the professional you are. And use that as a leveraging tool that when you show up in the morning before you turn on your computer and get lost in that vortex of emails and other texts and other distraction, you do job one, which is connecting with people and making a difference, knowing that's the precursor to a really big quarter next quarter.
Mic drop. You called it, or you started with a perfect day. I think so too. I think today's a perfect day. You know why?
Because it's Mojo Monday, my
Yes,
man.
it is.